Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at what might be happening with the market over the next few days. Now I am going to be looking at the SPY ETF and maybe a few specific stocks to give us an idea of what will be happening over the next few days, but I do also want to touch base on a few pieces of news that could really be giving us some insight on what will be happening with the market. Now as you guys know, I have these videos coming every single day almost, so make sure you subscribe down below and don't forget to like the video if you do learn something new. Now, the first thing I want to share with you guys is going to be this article from the Wall Street Journal, and in this article they talk about how supply crunches are going to be extending into 2022, but not only that, why the inflation is being fueled by these supply crunches, and this is something that has to do with the Fed meetings. If you have heard about this, in the last month and a half there have been two Fed meetings, and really in these meetings Chairman Powell, he comes out and he talks about inflation and whether or not it's going to be a risk to the American dollar, to the overall market, etc., the economy. And in the last meeting, he explained how the inflation is not coming from the dollar, it's not coming from how much dollars are being printed over the last few months, and it is not coming from the actions of the Fed, but instead it looks like a lot of the inflation which was assessed over the last few months and which did come up in this last report released last week, the inflation report which was released last week, it looks like a lot of it is coming from the supply side of things, and a lot of companies are really struggling to keep up with the amount of buying and with the amount of orders they are getting from a consumer side. So it really is a good sign sometimes when this inflation is happening, like we are seeing here from this article and like we are hearing from Chairman Powell over the last few weeks. It looks like this inflation is as a result of very, very high demand. So over the next few months, we need to see whether this trend continues or whether this is going to be a short-term event where really this will flip into being an inflation that we don't want to see. So that is going to be something that we really need to keep our eye on. Now, looking at the chart here for the S&P 500 ETF or the SPY, this is going to give us a great indication of what's going on in the overall market, and it tends to be true that when this ETF is in the green on the week, that the market went up, and when it's in the red, it is almost always true that the market goes down. So again, guys, this is going to be a great way to track what happens on a daily basis in the market and where a lot of your favorite companies are headed, such as Google, Apple, Tesla, Boeing, etc., are all included here on the SPY or on one of the equivalents like NASDAQ or like the Russell, if you've heard of those ETFs as well. But here, looking at the SPY, there are going to be some very, very clear signs on the chart that are going to give us an indication of whether we might be wanting to trade this back to the upside, looking for new all-time highs, or whether this brand new red bar that produced itself last week is going to be that be-all end-all that ends everybody's fun here in the stock market and really starts to point the market back in a downwards direction and back to where a lot of people frankly think is the reality of the market. Now, if you've been following my channel over the last few weeks, you may know that I am a very strong bull. Even in these current market conditions, I feel like there is always a bull market somewhere to capture, and for that reason, I would be very surprised if the ETF, SPY ETF, did leak down all the way to 390 or even back down to the levels we were seeing in July of last year. But I don't put it past the market for a major correction to be happening. So I do want to touch base on what is going to give us the sign of whether we should be expecting a major crash or maybe a major rally. And that's going to come down to the last weekly timeframes and what's been happening in the past. Now, in the channel, I always stress this a lot, but the past is going to give us a very clear indication of what could be happening in the future. And with the SPY ETF, one of the main things that I've been watching over the last few days and over the last few months actually has been the way that these bars flip green to red or red to green. So what do I mean by that? You can see that when we were at the bottom, the absolute bottom on the market, and this was post-COVID, post all that bad stuff that was happening last year in March, you can see that the bars clearly flipped from red one week to green the next week, and that was what gave us that signal of a push into the upwards direction. So again, you can see that we had that same red to green flip back over here in November, which again pointed us into the upwards direction. And the last time on the chart that we did have that red to green flip was in February of this early year 2021. And really what that showed us was our last market rally, or our most recent market rally, all the way up to $420. So that really makes you beg the question of whether or not this red bar that has printed itself on the weekly time frame will be either an indication of a sell-off, maybe if a second red bar comes, or if a green bar produces itself like we've seen in the past, then this could be an absolutely smashing indication of a rally to the upside. So I wouldn't put it past the market to see either of these scenarios. And that's why I really want to stress that next week is going to be that week for the market to decide whether it's going to really continue up or head back down. And I do not want to stress, or I can't stress enough, how much importance this next week will have. So please keep your eye on the market and keep your eye on this warning sign and the next warning sign, which I'm going to be showing you in this video. Now, in order to know what might be happening in the next week and what we clearly need to keep our eyes on the lower time frames in order to know whether this is a trade to the upside or a trade to the downside, we're going to want to switch here in the top left from the 1 week chart to the 1 day chart. And what this is going to allow us to see is a zoomed in look on the SPY ETF. So again, this ETF tracks the overall market, and it tends to be true that when this ETF is in an upwards direction, the market always increases in price, and when this ETF is selling off, a lot of stocks tend to be in a downwards direction. So that's why people really do like to keep their eye on this ETF and why it is so influential in the day-to-day trading of the stock market. But obviously right here you can see that this is going to be the most key level which we are watching, $410 a share on the SPY ETF. So if we do see a drop below that, I would be very surprised if we could find support. But obviously there is a second level as well, and I say obviously, but it is not very obvious. The market has been pretty much up and down in the last few days. But again, guys, these are going to be two clear levels that we need to watch. 410 and then this lower resistance at around 405. If both these levels get broken to the downside, then it would be very surprising, in my opinion, almost impossible for the market to make a bounce randomly here. I think that it is a lot more likely that if we do break below these two purple boxes, we will be heading all the way to the downside, 391 as our price target. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a small bounce here all the way back, similarly to how we're used to seeing on other rallies and dips. So again, guys, this is not the be all end all situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a pullback. And this is going to be some key levels that we need to watch, 410 and again that lower level at 405, in order to give us the exact indication of when we should hop in or hop out. So again, guys, if you did enjoy the video or if you did learn something new, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Check out all the links in the description. Those are for absolutely free, and there's also the link to the free Discord, which is where I put all my daily plays and signals. But as always, I hope all your plays are in the green.